All right, and we're back with the Venomous Abyss raid for Midnight Season 2. The first boss we're going to be looking at is Nek'zali the Soulcoiler. So just to give you a little bit of a rundown, the way these first few videos are going to work is we're going to be looking at PTR, focusing on mostly heroic, giving a little bit of insight on how the fight is going to change on Mythic. But until I actually see, Race to World first and the Mythic mechanics, the strategies that are used, a lot of this is going to be speculation on how Mythic is going to be handled, especially on some of the later bosses. Obviously, on this first boss, it's going to be a bit more cut and paste obvious on what the strategy is going to be. But let's just get right into it. So, Soulcoiler is a pretty complicated first boss. It definitely has more mechanics than some first bosses that we've seen in the past. The fight starts same as most fights. There's a bit of raid damage, and then we get straight into the first mechanic, which is Essence Rend. Basically, 4 players are going to be targeted with this tether. You can see here, this Boomkin is being targeted. At the end of the cast, it's going to knock you back and put a Dispel on you. Now, that Dispel is indicated by this debuff icon. Any healers can see that on raid frames. You want to be positioning yourself on the wall as close as possible before the knock happens, because healers are going to want to dispel this instantly. You don't want to make them wait for the dispel, because they're not really going to be able to know where you are. They're just expecting you to be on the wall, right? So these players are on the wall, they're getting dispelled, they're dropping these puddles. And notice how these puddles are moving. These puddles are going to be rotating around the room for the entire fight, albeit very slowly, but since they're rotating and moving, we don't want them to inhibit wherever we need to be at any point during the fight. That's why we're putting them on the wall, never in the middle, always on the wall. And that's going to be the rule. After that, we see the tank mechanic, which is called Possession Barrage. You can't really see it here from the Boomkin POV. You kind of can. Basically, the tank gets targeted with a fall-off damage AoE, which you can see here in the raid plan. The tank needs to run out. You can see he's out here with the fall-off AoE. The boss is going to send a stream of ghosts at the tank. These are going to do large raid damage. The closer you are, the more damage you take. It can be immuned with Bubble, Spell Ward, and the group doesn't even take the damage if you immune it, at least on PTR, that's how it worked. Unsure if AMS works the same way, probably doesn't, but it's always good to test. And then you'll see the main problem point of the fight is these ads. So these ads are called Restless Amani. They spawn periodically through the fight, and they fixate onto the soul well in the center of the room. If they ever touch this soul well, they give the boss 5 energy and do a big raid hit. So we don't want that to happen. To stop that from happening, you're going to break the shields on the ads, and it breaks the fixate. So they get a threat table, and they can be grouped up onto the boss. So we're going to drag the boss over to the biggest pack of ads, AoE them down, break the shields, and then they're going to group up onto the tank. See a grip happening there. Throughout the fight, they're going to spawn different areas around the room, so it's really good to bring things like Boomkins, Shadow Priests, Affliction Locks, anything that can do, big AoE damage in a wide area. It's very important to get these ads grouped up, because when they die, they don't actually go away. They become corpses on the ground that we're going to have to deal with later in the fight. So that's the entirety of Phase 1. We'll talk about the Mythic mechanic a little bit. The only change on Mythic is that there's going to be a downstairs phase. And now the way the downstairs phase works is, we can see here, these ghost guys are going to appear inside the soul well. You're going to see them appear right now. That means that downstairs phase is triggered and an ad has spawned inside the soul well that we have to deal with. Now, what this looks like is you send like 5 people. Importantly, you do not need to send a tank. You send about 5 people into the soul well. I mean, it'll depend on tuning, right? But a small group, a strike team, to go into the soul well and kill this ad that's downstairs. Now, as soon as you spawn, you're going to see a lot of these ghosts flying around, rotating around the center. Do not get hit by these. They do a large amount of damage. You can see lines coming off the ad in the middle, too. That shows where they're going to spawn from. More are going to come out of him and then start spinning as well. So we're just focusing on killing this guy. He's going to have a kick. If this kick goes off, people get sent back upstairs. We need to make sure we have some coordination on this kick, like who's going to be kicking it first. You can see it's a very long cast, so if you know who's going to kick it first, that is very helpful. and then, anyone can probably kick after that, and you'll be done with the phase, right? So this mechanic actually happens throughout the entire fight, periodically. The timings aren't really known yet, but we'll know that when the fight actually goes live. And you're going to need 2 groups, because when you actually go down, you get a debuff that lasts, we'll see here, 1 minute, right? So you can't go back downstairs again for 1 minute. So likely you're going to need 2 groups that alternate going downstairs for the entire fight. So let's talk about the intermission. So the intermission of this fight is the boss will become immune, will go into the center of the room, and channel into one of 2 echo ads that are on the east and west side of the room. So this triggers when the boss hits 50%. You see the boss is channeling into the soul well. She still takes damage here when she's doing this channel. You can still focus damage into her. So you're going to drop her a lot lower than 50% before she actually goes immune. But as soon as she goes immune, one of these side ads will become active. As far as we know right now, it's random which one is the first one to become active. But you can see they're hitting this one over here. There's this big line AoE, which shows she's basically putting her soul into this ad. So you don't want to be in that. It does big damage. You move out, and then it becomes fully active. So the whole point of this intermission is dealing with the corpses left behind by all of the ads that we've killed throughout the boss fight so far. So the way we do that is the ad will periodically cast an ability called Hungering Pyre. Now this is a big group soak. You can see here a big fire group soak. And you really only need about 6-ish people in this. It's 2 million split damage on Mythic. So about 6 or 7 people can live this pretty comfortably based on that number. And then everyone else needs to spread out around the room. Now, the reason for this is as soon as the group soak goes off, which burns corpses, by the way, this group soak is fire damage that burns the corpses. Anyone who's not in the soak will get a smaller little AoE around them that can be used to burn corpses as well. So we want a lot of people to get this circle so that they can burn like some of the ads that maybe died far away or out of the stack. And it's not like a vacuum cleaner kind of thing. It's not like you can just start running over corpses and they all get burned. You need to stand on a group of corpses, and when this debuff that you have expires, it'll pop and burn any corpses that you're standing on top of. So you're going to do this for the entirety of the phase. On Mythic, ads will continuously funnel in during this. So you're going to have ads streaming in constantly. You're going to be moving the boss around to deal with these streams of ads coming in. Any living ads hit by this AoE get a giant fire dot that basically will solo the ads. So we want to put the fire soaks not only on the corpses, but also on the living ads that are coming in, because it will also deal with them. And as far as I know, if an ad dies with the fire dot, it doesn't leave a corpse. That isn't confirmed, so maybe it does leave a corpse. I'm like 60 to 70% sure that it doesn't, but we'll see when the boss goes live. So that's basically the entirety of P2, right? You're just burning corpses, dealing with ads on Mythic. You're going to have a group that's going to have to go downstairs again on Mythic during this phase. And that's basically the entire fight, right? Another thing to mention that I'm actually cutting in here is that there's going to be an overlap in the intermission where a group needs to go downstairs and one of the echoes is doing the fire soak. And previously mentioned, if you do not soak, you get these smaller fire circles that is also a dot ticking on you. And we really don't want that on any of the players that are going downstairs. So you can see Banshers here is actually assigned to go downstairs in the intermission. And he's going to step into this group soak and then go downstairs afterwards. So it's not a super rush to get downstairs right away. You do the soak and then you go downstairs so that you don't have to deal with that fire dot ticking on you the entire time you're down there. As soon as you kill these 2 echoes, the boss becomes active again and triggers an Enrage phase. Basically, her energy is going to start stacking up a lot faster. There's going to be a lot more ads coming in from the edges of the room, and it becomes a lot more hectic. She adds one more ability during this phase called Invoke, and it basically invokes all of these puddles around the room to dance and move randomly. So it just creates more area denial. It causes more chaos. And ideally, you're going to be lusting this phase, right? As soon as we come out of the intermission, you're lusting, trying to kill the boss as quickly as possible while still keeping control of any adds that are spawning throughout the room during this phase. And just trying to kill the boss as fast as possible. And that's the entire fight.